I have a decreasing amendment for $700,000 from Fast Track. This program is designed to help prepare people for jobs. This $700,000 would help prepare people who live with disabilities for those jobs.
I will not support any amendments that take money from the Fast Track program, although I remain open to that discussion.
I have an amendment in the packet on page 79. The money would go towards independent living waivers. We have cut 8,811 people from having services of consumer-directed services. We have 160 people on a waiting list for an independent waiver, and this would cover those people on our waiting list.
I do not support this amendment. It's unclear to me what exactly would happen if this line were cut, and I do not support it at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment on page 85, and you did not see people as living, needing independent waivers as worthy. Perhaps you will see house salaries as worthy. Legislative assistants who get hired don't get a salary increase for 19 years.
We have made great efforts on pay plan for House staff. I think the lady will be very pleased with what we've done, and I don't think this decreasing amendment is therefore going to be necessary.
For the reasons I previously stated with the other amendment that would do the same thing, I cannot support this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment on page 100. I think this is, once again, a very worthy use of the state's allocations.
I will say, folks, that I will not support this amendment. Certainly haven't taken the time to contemplate what the repercussions of that would be.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment on page 131.
I will say that I have an objection. I don't think it's necessarily the right approach. In fact, I don't think it is the right approach at all to expand programs without having long-term funding solutions, for fear of having to kick those folks back off of the programs once that funding dries up. So for that reason, I do not support this amendment or any other amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment on page 133, and my apologies for being succinct. I don't think these are temporary solutions. I don't think this expands any program that we have. We currently offer, I know we are looking at saving money. We are woefully underfunding people who provide the services in our homes.
And I will say again to the committee, I cannot support any initiatives to increase the scope, or in this case the reimbursement rates for these programs with one-time funding sources.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment on page 134. There's more than $60 million sitting in funds. At some point in time, we have to figure we want to use those in the state of Missouri. I asked for $1.5 million out of fund balance 0926 for DD rate stabilization.
I do not believe we can use this fund for this purpose.
You said this is an inquiry?
Yeah, and I'll give you the opportunity to respond.
Well, thank you. According to the Constitution and the Supreme Court decision, they need to do what we ask them to do.
I will not support them. Not now, not tonight, not anytime soon. We can go through these one by one, and if you feel like doing that will help your cause, that's your prerogative. But I'll tell you that it won't. And with that said, we can move on here. Further discussion on House Committee Substitute for House Bill 10. Representative Lavender.
Mr. Chair, I have an amendment on page 136. One-time funding, if that's what you feel this would be, for mental health is a good, worthwhile endeavor. I request we move 1.5 of it to mental health services.
We asked the same question. We'll get the same answer here. But again, I cannot support
We need a sunset extended, and there is doubt that this will happen. This is 31 people that Missouri has promised to cover with non-eligibility for Medicaid.
I can't support taking that away, so I would ask to vote no on this.
I do not support this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment on page 141.
I cannot support this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment on page 156. I think this meets all the criteria you've all been talking about all night. This is a one-time opportunity to use funds. The McKinsey report has estimated $500 million to $1 billion in savings in our program. I say we take the money from OA and their working funds for a one-time expenditure and take the $5 million and put to rural broadband.
1.2 million Missourians do not have access to broadband internet right now, and this would solve a lot of problems for a lot of folks for $4 a person. Thank you.
Lady, while I'm hesitant to say I think you're getting warmer with this approach, and I admire your creativity, I cannot afford. I'm sorry, I cannot support the amendment. I will save the committee the time of listing the things that I have grown tired of this evening, and I do appreciate that and respect that, despite what some might think. And with that, I will not be supporting this amendment.
I'm really getting tired of excuses in here. I'm getting tired of the lady being complimented for her creativity, for her ingenuity, for her tenacity, for her passion, while we continue to vote down her ideas. The fact is, we're not talking about a lot of money for this program. And it's a program that makes sure that people have access to something that other residents of the state in their same situation have. And they're simply on a wait list, unable to get the services that they need to live, to work, and to be a part of society. We talk about one-time funding in all of these places, and yet we can come up with $100 million for roads and bridges. We can come up with $25 million for a new tax credit program for workforce development in one place, or a new other tax credit for workforce development in another place. $15 million here, $20 million there. But we can't come up with $700,000. $700,000 so that people get access to services they need. We talk about how budgets are moral documents. We're showing our priorities here. I would ask that we stop making excuses for why the lady's ideas just aren't quite perfect, and instead acknowledge the fact that we need to put this funding where it will do the most good for people, where it matches our moral priorities as a state. This is a straightforward one. It's not even a one-time fund. It does a it does a transfer of funds, frees up money for a small bit of help for people that need it. I'd ask the committee to support the amendment.